Karen Mitchell had lived in the affluent Potomac neighborhood for 12 years when she made a phone call that would destroy her family and cost her everything she held dear. She was 38 years old, college-educated enough to know better, but apparently convinced that her assumptions about who belonged in expensive neighborhoods were always correct. One Saturday afternoon during a children's birthday party, she saw a black family celebrating in their own backyard and decided they must be illegal immigrants taking advantage of American generosity. What Mitchell did next, ignoring obvious evidence of citizenship, dismissing her neighbor's attempts to explain, and calling federal agents to remove children from a birthday party, would become a textbook example of how racial hatred destroys not just communities, but the families of those who spread it. A black man in his mid-40s, Dr. Marcus Thompson, was setting up tables for his 7-year-old son's birthday party in the backyard of his $850,000 home in Potomac, Maryland. His Homeland Security ID badge was clearly visible on his belt from his morning workout. No crime, no immigration violations, no suspicious activity, just a father preparing for his child's birthday celebration. But Karen Mitchell saw him through a filter so distorted by racist assumptions that she couldn't imagine black people as legitimate residents of her wealthy neighborhood. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that like and subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us expose the truth about what happens when racism meets reality. Potomac Glen sits in one of Maryland's wealthiest zip codes, just 15 miles from Washington, D.C. It's the kind of neighborhood where federal executives, Supreme Court justices, and Fortune 500 CEOs live behind perfectly manicured lawns and 3-car garages. The houses start at $700,000 and climb toward $2 million. Tree-lined streets, sidewalks where children ride expensive bikes, and the quiet confidence that comes from living where power and privilege intersect. It was 2:30 p.m. on a Saturday in June. The sun was shining. The temperature was perfect for outdoor parties. Children's laughter carried from backyards where families celebrated weekend milestones. Minivans and luxury SUVs filled driveways, the kind of peaceful suburban afternoon where the biggest concern should be whether there's enough ice cream for the birthday cake. Dr. Marcus Thompson had been Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security for 3 years. 3 years of briefing the president on national security threats, coordinating with FBI and CIA directors, and overseeing a department with 240,000 employees. He'd spent 8 years before that as a federal prosecutor in the Southern District of New York, building cases against international drug cartels and terrorism financing networks, and 5 years before that as an assistant U.S. attorney handling complex financial crimes. Before law enforcement, he'd served 6 years as an Army intelligence officer, including 2 deployments to Afghanistan, where he coordinated counterintelligence operations. He'd testified before Congress 47 times, been quoted in the Washington Post and New York Times, and received the Attorney General's Award for Exceptional Service. His colleagues called him brilliant. His staff called him the most prepared person in any meeting. Thompson had graduated summa cum laude from Howard University, then Harvard Law School, where he'd been editor of the Harvard Law Review and clerked for a federal appeals court judge. He'd earned a master's in international relations from Georgetown and completed executive education at the Naval War College. The White House had nominated him for his current position after unanimous bipartisan support in committee hearings. At 45 years old, Marcus Thompson was exactly where he'd worked to be, trusted with America's security while building a loving family. He'd been married to Dr. Angela Thompson, a pediatric surgeon, for 14 years. They had 2 children, Marcus Jr., age 7, and Sophia, age 4. The family lived quietly, attending church on Sundays, hosting neighborhood barbecues, and trying to give their children a normal childhood despite the security requirements that came with Daddy's job. That Saturday, Thompson was on a rare weekend off, focused entirely on his son's 7th birthday party. He'd spent the morning at the gym, then returned home to help Angela set up the backyard. They'd rented a bounce house, hired a magician, and invited 12 classmates from Marcus Jr.'s school. Thompson wore khaki shorts, a polo shirt, and sneakers. His Homeland Security ID was clipped to his belt from his morning gym routine, a habit from years of carrying federal credentials. His service weapon was locked in his home office safe. He never carried it during family events. He looked like what he was, a suburban dad setting up for his kid's birthday party. He'd spoken to neighbors while carrying decorations from the garage. He'd waved to the mailman. He'd done nothing to hide his presence or activities. But to one person watching from across the street, the Thompson family's celebration was evidence of something sinister. And that person had decided to do something about it. Karen Mitchell was 38 years old. She'd been a resident of Potomac Glen for 12 years. Moving there after her divorce settlement provided enough money to buy into one of the area's most exclusive neighborhoods. She was educated, articulate, and deeply invested in maintaining what she called the neighborhood's character and property values. She served on the Homeowners Association Board, organized the annual block party, and appointed herself the unofficial guardian of community standards. Her neighbors described her as vigilant but increasingly paranoid about outsiders. Over 12 years, Mitchell had compiled a disturbing record of complaints to various authorities. She'd called police 17 times about suspicious people who turned out to be delivery drivers, repair workers, or visitors. She'd filed 14 complaints with the Homeowners Association about neighbors she claimed were violating rules, all targeting the 3 minority families in the subdivision. She'd called animal control 6 times about dogs that were barking at normal daytime levels. She'd contacted code enforcement about lawns that were perfectly maintained but belonged to people she didn't like. Mitchell had a pattern. She used official complaint systems to harass anyone who didn't fit her vision of the neighborhood. A Hispanic landscaper working on a yard was reported as a potential burglar. An Asian family hosting relatives for a holiday was cited for too many cars in their driveway. A black teenager visiting friends was described as loitering with criminal intent. The pattern was documented across multiple agencies, but each complaint was handled in isolation. No one had connected the dots to see the systematic nature of Mitchell's racial targeting. That Saturday afternoon, Mitchell had been watching the Thompson house through her living room window. She'd noticed the party preparations, the children arriving, the obvious celebration. In her mind, this confirmed her long-standing suspicion that the Thompsons weren't really supposed to be there. Black people with that much money had to be hiding something. Probably drug dealers, maybe identity thieves. Definitely not legitimate residents of her neighborhood. She didn't consider that the Thompsons had lived there for 4 years without incident. She didn't think about the fact that they'd been perfect neighbors. She didn't wonder why a criminal would host a children's party in their backyard with dozens of witnesses. She just reached for her phone and dialed. Mitchell called ICE's enforcement hotline at 3:15 p.m. "I want to report illegal aliens in my neighborhood. They're having some kind of gathering with lots of people, probably planning something. The family is definitely not supposed to be here. They don't belong in this area." The ICE agent asked standard questions. "Do you have specific evidence of immigration violations? Look at them. They're obviously not Americans. They're in a house they can't afford legally. And now they're bringing in more illegals for some kind of meeting. Ma'am, do you know these people personally? Have they committed any crimes?" "I don't need to know criminals personally. I know what I see. Send agents to investigate." She provided the address and hung up. "Do you think neighbors should face legal consequences for false immigration reports based on race? Drop your answer below." When ICE didn't respond within an hour, Mitchell called again. Then she called local police. Then she called the Homeowners Association president. Then she posted in the neighborhood Facebook group, "Suspicious activity at the Thompson house. Large gathering, lots of cars, possible illegal immigrant meeting. Has anyone reported this?" The Facebook post triggered immediate responses from neighbors who knew the Thompsons personally, but Mitchell dismissed them as naive or complicit. Thompson was lighting the grill when he noticed Karen Mitchell walking across the street toward his property. He'd seen her around the neighborhood, but they'd never spoken. She was holding her phone and had an expression of determination mixed with disgust. "You people need to go back where you came from." Thompson's confusion was immediate. He was standing in his own backyard, preparing food for his son's birthday party. "Excuse me? This is our home." Mitchell's voice got louder, carrying across the yard to where parents were watching their children play. "I don't care. You don't belong in this neighborhood. I'm calling ICE." Thompson tried to de-escalate while protecting his family's celebration. The children were still playing, but some parents had started to notice the confrontation. "Ma'am, we're American citizens. My son is having his birthday party. This is our house." Thompson pulled out his wallet and showed his driver's license with the Potomac address. then unclipped his Homeland Security ID from his belt. Save your lies for someone who believes them. These kids are probably illegals too. Mitchell glanced at the ID dismissively, then took a photo of it with her phone. Fake government documents. They probably bought those online. Thompson realized he was dealing with someone beyond reason, but he had to protect the children who could hear everything. You're making a serious mistake. I'm Marcus Thompson, Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. This is my family, my home, my son's birthday party. Mitchell's response revealed the depth of her delusion. I don't care if you're the president. ICE is coming for all of you. Should officials be required to verify someone's identity before processing immigration complaints? Let me know what you think. Other parents at the party had stopped their conversations to watch the confrontation. Several neighbors came out of their houses. Children stopped playing to stare at the angry woman shouting in their friend's backyard. Mrs. Mitchell, Dr. Thompson is our neighbor. He works for Homeland Security. That was Janet Peterson, a federal judge who lived 2 houses down and had attended Thompson's confirmation hearing. He's lying. They're all illegal. I've called ICE and they're coming to arrest all of them. At 4:47 p.m., 2 ICE agents arrived at the Thompson residence in response to Mitchell's repeated calls. They approached cautiously, expecting to find evidence of immigration violations or criminal activity. Instead, they found a children's birthday party in progress, with a magician performing tricks while parents watched from lawn chairs. The lead agent, Supervisor Maria Santos, immediately recognized Thompson from department briefings. She also noticed children staring fearfully at their uniforms and parents moving protectively closer to their kids. Agent Santos approached Thompson with obvious embarrassment. Deputy Secretary Thompson? I'm Agent Santos, ICE Enforcement. We received reports of suspicious immigration activity at this address. Thompson's response was measured but firm. Agent Santos, as you can see, this is my son's 7th birthday party. We received a false report from a neighbor who apparently believes black families can't legally live in Potomac. Santos examined Thompson's credentials, checked his ID against department databases, and confirmed his position through official channels. The verification took less than 3 minutes. Sir, I apologize profusely. This call was clearly racially motivated and completely without merit. Mitchell, who had been watching from across the street, approached the agents. What's taking so long? Arrest them all. Agent Santos turned to Mitchell with professional but obvious frustration. Ma'am, you filed a false report. Dr. Thompson is Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security. This is his family, his home, his child's birthday party. Mitchell's response showed how deep her delusion ran. That's impossible. Look at them. They can't be Americans. Agent Santos made a decision that would change everything. Ma'am, filing false immigration reports is a federal crime. Deliberately wasting federal resources and racially targeting American citizens are serious offenses. Mitchell's confidence finally cracked. I thought, they don't look like they belong here. We'll be filing charges for filing false federal reports and potentially hate crime enhancements. You'll be hearing from our attorneys. Should filing false ICE reports based on race carry automatic federal charges? Drop your answer. Within hours, cell phone videos from the birthday party had spread across social media. Multiple angles showed Mitchell screaming at a federal official in his own backyard, calling children illegals, and insisting that a Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security was a criminal. The story exploded. Racist Karen calls ICE on Homeland Security Secretary's family birthday party. Woman loses custody after false ICE report on black federal official birthday party from hell. Neighbor calls immigration on DHS Deputy Secretary. The outrage was immediate and bipartisan. The White House issued a statement supporting Thompson. Civil rights organizations demanded prosecution. Conservative commentators condemned the waste of federal resources. Mitchell's life imploded within 48 hours. Her employer, a federal contracting company, terminated her immediately after the videos went viral. Her ex-husband filed for emergency custody modification, arguing that her racial obsession made her unfit to parent their 2 children. The Homeowners Association voted to remove her from the board and began eviction proceedings. The Justice Department filed charges within a week. The indictment included filing false federal reports, obstruction of federal operations, and civil rights violations. Federal prosecutors argued that Mitchell's pattern of racially motivated complaints constituted systematic harassment of minority residents. Mitchell's ex-husband, David, had been documenting her increasingly erratic behavior for months. The ICE incident provided the evidence family court needed. Emergency custody hearings revealed Mitchell's history of racist social media posts, her obsession with monitoring minority neighbors, and her willingness to traumatize children to pursue her prejudices. Judge Patricia Wong's ruling was devastating. Ms. Mitchell's actions demonstrate a pattern of racial hatred that has escalated to criminal behavior. Her willingness to terrorize children at a birthday party shows she prioritizes her racism over the welfare of any child, including her own. Mitchell lost primary custody. David was granted full custody with supervised visitation only. Potomac Glen faced a reckoning. The Homeowners Association implemented new policies prohibiting racially motivated complaints and requiring anti-bias training for board members. Mitchell's house went into foreclosure when she couldn't afford the mortgage without her job. Property values actually increased as the community gained a reputation for rejecting racism. Dr. Thompson testified at Mitchell's federal sentencing hearing. His testimony was measured but powerful. Your Honor, Karen Mitchell didn't just file a false report. She attempted to weaponize federal law enforcement against my family because of our race. She tried to destroy my children's birthday party because she couldn't accept that black people belonged in her neighborhood. He paused. My 7-year-old son asked me why the angry lady said we had to go back where we came from when we were already home. My 4-year-old daughter was afraid the police were going to take Daddy away. Mitchell didn't just target me. She terrorized children who had done nothing but exist while black in her proximity. Another pause. I've spent my career protecting America from real threats. Karen Mitchell wasted federal resources, traumatized children, and turned a birthday party into a lesson about racism because she couldn't imagine that qualified black people might live in the same neighborhood as her. That's not just criminal, it's un-American. His voice strengthened. This happens to black families every day who don't have federal credentials, who don't have resources to fight back, who don't have witnesses with cameras. If this can happen to the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security in his own backyard, imagine what happens to families without federal protection. The courtroom was silent. Should racially motivated false government reports trigger automatic hate crime enhancements? Drop your answer. This wasn't just about one racist neighbor or one false ICE report. This was about a system that allows people to weaponize federal law enforcement against minorities, confident that their assumptions will be validated rather than investigated. Karen Mitchell's 17 complaints over 12 years told a story that no single agency had bothered to piece together. Every complaint targeted minorities. Every assumption was based on race. Every official report was a waste of public resources. But each agency treated her calls in isolation, never recognizing the systematic nature of her racial harassment. Mitchell's career is over. That's consequence. She lost custody of her children. That's accountability. She faces federal prison time. That's justice. But no amount of punishment can undo the trauma of 7-year-old Marcus Thompson asking why someone wanted to take his family away from their home. No sentence can restore the innocence of children who learned about racism at a birthday party. The real question is, what changes now? Do federal agencies finally track patterns of false reports based on race? Do courts finally recognize that weaponizing government against minorities is child abuse? Do communities finally train officials to recognize racist harassment disguised as concerned citizen reports? Because if we don't fix the systems that allowed Mitchell to waste federal resources 17 times over 12 years, if we don't address the culture that makes people think they can call ICE on birthday parties, then we're just waiting for the next Karen, the next false report, the next traumatized child. Comment if you believe this should be law. Filing false government reports based on race should carry automatic hate crime charges and mandatory community service with the targeted communities. And if you think these stories need to be told, if you believe accountability starts with exposure and change starts with pressure, then smash that like button and subscribe because we're not stopping. We're going to keep exposing these Karens. We're going to keep demanding better. We're going to keep fighting for the birthday parties, the suburban families, the children who deserve to exist in their own neighborhoods without being criminalized for their race. This isn't just about one racist neighbor or one federal official. It's about all of us and the America we choose to accept. One where birthday parties are safe from racial hatred, or one where being black in your own backyard makes you a target.